In this chapter, we're going to cover some elements of SQL that we haven't covered yet in the previous chapters, and we're going to learn about some more complex things such as transactions. First of all, we're going to look at default data handling in MySQL, and then the column types and functions which handle the date and time. Then we're going to look at the two column types we haven't seen before. That's the enumeration and set column types. We're going to look briefly at MySQL's handling of variables. We're going to examine transaction handling under MySQL and concurrency. But first of all, let's take a look at the use of default data in MySQL. To begin with, let's choose our sample database from the list of databases. If we take a look at the columns that make up the products table, we'll see there are 3 columns there, and you'll notice in the column listing there is an extra attribute that we haven't looked at so far called default, second from the right. We'll notice that the second one down, price, has a default of 0. This can cause a bit of a problem if we entered a new product into the products table. Say we insert into products and we just insert into the name column and let the other columns fill themselves up. Then we're going to put values, and let's say it's a Darth Vader mask. Now if we go back and take a look at the data in the products table, the Darth Vader mask has been added with a price of 0. So obviously this could cause a problem in this situation, because if we added a product, we could end up charging people nothing for it. So let's change our table to reflect a default price that can be added to any product where we don't specify a price. So we're going to use the alter table syntax. Alter table products, change the price column. We're going to change the price column. We have to specify, if you remember the syntax from a previous chapter, you'll remember that we have to specify everything in the price column, including the name. So we get the rather odd syntax of saying price, then using the column name again, price. We're going to specify everything that was in the column before, such as its column type, which was a decimal, and the particular format of that decimal column type. 6 with 2 decimal places. We're going to specify that it can't be null, and we're going to give it a default value. And that's what we're learning in this movie, how to apply a default value. We just add the default like any other attribute, then we put the value at the end, in this case 10. Now, if we take a look at the columns in our products table, we'll see that the default price has been changed from 0 to 10. If, however, we take a look at the data in our products table, we'll see that data we entered before hasn't changed. So the default value only comes into play when we're entering data. Once that data has been set by default value, even if we change what the default value really is, then the value that's already been set won't be changed. However, if we now insert into products, name, values, and we're going to put a new toy, let's say it's a lightsaber, into our toy shop stock, the piece of data has been entered, so let's take a look at the data from our table with a select statement. As we can see, even though we didn't specify a price for the lightsaber, because we've specified a default, our lightsaber is being sold for $10. Of course, we can also specify a default value when we're creating a table as well. Before we do that, let's try inserting another item of data in which we specify both the name and the price. We're going to specify another piece of Star Wars paraphernalia, and we're going to specify a price there. Now if we take a look at the data in our table, we'll see that if we specify a price, then again, the default doesn't come into play at all. It's only if we don't specify that the default value is used. Let's take a look now at how we can specify a default when we're creating a table rather than changing a table after it's already been created. Let's create a table called complaints, and that's going to have complaint ID, and this one's going to be the primary key, so we set it up a small int, not null, and we're going to auto increment the number. Customer ID, which is going to link the table to our customers table. We're going to have a column called rage, which is going to be a tiny int, and that's going to specify exactly how angry we think the customer is when we took the call. And we're going to set that to a default of 10, the maximum. So if we don't specify otherwise, then we'll assume that the customer is maximally angry. Completely arbitrarily, no particular reason why we choose any of these defaults, but they're just intended to show you how the default system works. We're also going to have a details column, which is going to be a character column. 50 characters long, again not null, and we can specify a default at the character column as well. Another whinger is what we specify as the details for the particular complaint, unless we specify otherwise. We're also going to specify that the primary key is complaint ID. Now, when we go to insert some data into our new table, let's say we just insert the customer ID who called and nothing else, and then take a look at the data in our table. As we can see, the auto increment has added 1 as the value for our complaint ID, and the two defaults that we added have set the value for the customer's level of rage and the details of the particular complaint that the customer made. Now that we've seen how to use default values, in our next movie we're going to have a look at MySQL's handling of the date and time.